Welcome to the Self-Belief and Influence podcast, where we talk with people who have great influence in the Metro Detroit business community. We discuss all aspects of their journey, including the moments where they have had to draw deeply on their self-belief and inner drive to achieve their vision. My name is Keith Baldwin, and my co-host is Nathan Hardecki, and our podcast is sponsored by Regal Payments and Push Media. These conversations with our diverse guests will potentially make you re-examine your ideas about people, business, and life in general. Here's a taste of what's coming up today.
I lost faith in my own ability to lead the company. So I had to make a choice at the beginning of the year of, do I just shut it down? Or do I put war paint on and go to frickin' battle? And that's what I chose to do.
Let's explore and scrutinize together as we unlock the mind of today's guest to provide you with inspiration and tangible takeaways that you can choose to apply in your life. Today's guest is Amy Peterson. I'm excited to talk with Amy as she is the owner and co-founder of Rebel Nell. Now, the product Rebel Nell sells in Detroit is jewelry that includes graffiti from Detroit. Rebel Nell was never just a business formed around a product. It was a business formed around the idea and mission of a woman-owned social enterprise with a dedication to providing employment, equitable opportunity, and wraparound support for women with barriers. Welcome to Amy, and please remember to like and subscribe to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad to have you on. And we try and go over a lot from your story, whether it be about the business, why you started, and kind of your upbringing and all that sort of thing. And looking into your upbringing, I realized I've been kind of following you around this year with your places of your past. So I've got a couple of quiz questions for you.
Okay.
So for July the 4th and fireworks, do you prefer to go to Beamers Point or Richard Hartley Park in Lakewood?
It's closer to Richard Hartley Park, yes.
Right. And I asked that because that's where we were for July 4th this year. And
did we know that? Did we talk about that?
no, we didn't talk about that. This is all my research into you, Amy.
Oh my God.
I've been burning the candle, and when I realized you grew up there, I was like, that's very random because we were there.
What were you doing there?
Well, we were on our way to New York State. My daughter had a soccer ID camp, and we stopped off a couple of days there to break up the drive.
No kidding.
And it was a nice enough town. Maybe it's not a town.
Where were you, in Lakewood or are you in Bemis?
Jamestown.
Oh, you're in Jamestown. Jamestown, so that's
Jamestown, New York.
Okay.
And but I don't know if I'll go back, but it's again, nice enough town.
Did you spend any time on the lake?
Well, we were there for the fireworks.
Okay, well that's important.
Yes. So for those that don't know, Jamestown, New York. I know you've described it as near Buffalo, kind of near Erie, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
But it's quite rural. It was my first. I've been to New York before, but not really the west side of New York State, and it's quite rural. We did a bit of horse riding there.
Okay.
How was it growing up in Jamestown?
A small town.
Yeah.
I'm blown away right now. That is amazing research. It was very small town. The town's 30,000 people. I went to Jamestown High School. When you think about it, Jamestown used to be the furniture manufacturer of the country. So it looked a lot different. But when I grew up, it was a lot of abandoned buildings and, went through a rough time.
That's strange to say. I mean, why don't they have a furniture museum, yet they have the stand-up comedy Hall museum of Fame?
Right. The reason we have that is because we're home of Lucille Ball.
Right. I know that. Yeah, you got that's the other museum.
That's exactly it. But yes, I don't know why there hasn't been a furniture Hall of Fame just yet. But it's also home to the crescent tool, crescent wrench. That's what I'm trying to say.
I thought you were saying crescent roll.
No. I could be making this up, but I'm pretty sure it's home to the crescent wrench as well. So we do have some claims to fame.
Yes. Come to Jamestown, the home of the crescent wrench and Lucille Ball.
Yeah, according to Amy.
We also make a bit of furniture.
Yeah, yes.
Is there a famous crescent family? Why
I don't know.
Because I've always wondered, why is it called a crescent wrench? I mean,
I don't know. I feel like I need to.
we probably have one around here somewhere.
I'm extremely unhandy, so I know what a wrench is. Don't really know what a crescent wrench is.
Well, it was born of laziness, I'm sure, of someone who didn't want to keep looking for a wrench, and so it's got a little twist.
Oh, that thing.
Yes,
okay.
so it adjusts the
Yeah.
size of it, and sort of like a adjustable box end wrench, which I'm sure you know what a box end wrench is.
type of wrench.
Yeah, and you know,
wrench history.
I want to say we definitely manufactured them there at a certain point. But yeah, Jamestown is a blip on a map,
right?
But also when I think about it, like I think when I moved to Detroit, maybe that's why Detroit, and I lived right downtown in 2007. Detroit looks a lot different than it did today. It was, I believe, like 60% of the skyline was abandoned or being unused, and that wasn't necessarily something I hadn't seen before. And I think because of growing up in Jamestown, there maybe were those visual similarities that made it like, oh, okay. Nothing different here.
Did something, I don't know, you said that Jamestown really wasn't making furniture at the time, but did something about Jamestown, was there some, like, I don't know, maker aspect of that was like...
That's a great point. I don't know, because it could have been just because of so many, generations of makers. The furniture industry had been long gone by the time I was born. It all moved overseas. But it could have been, as a result of so many people that I grew up around that had their families in the furniture making business or certainly in the manufacturing business.
Now, when you were growing up in Jamestown, I know you were close with your granddad, and
yes.
That's where your love of baseball started, which kind of has been a theme throughout your career. How did he introduce you to the game, or did you naturally find the game and then he fostered your love of it?
Now, we have a very small hometown team. It used to be a single A affiliate of Major League Baseball teams, and the teams had changed throughout the years. When I grew up, it was an affiliate of the Expos.
Oh, okay.
Which no longer exist. And so it was, really tiny stadium, but I would go down there on a regular basis with my dad and my grandpa and watch the games. And I remember when it was so small, you would just run around as a kid, right? You couldn't really get lost. And you would just go play with all the other kids, but that was never appealing to me. I wanted to score the game. So I learned how to score the game, and I would sit there with him. And
how old were you when you were like wanting to do the analytics for the game?
I remember probably around 8 to 10 was when I was doing it. And then I just hung out there a ton with my dad. My dad's always been involved. He's been such a major pillar for why baseball even still exists in this town. It's gone through different changes with affiliation, and now it's an independent league. Now we're called the Jamestown Tarp Skunks.
How did they end up on the Tarp Skunks?
So the Tarp Skunks, when they were they were in a Cleveland affiliate, and then Cleveland moved. They were actually a Tigers affiliate back in the day too. Tigers, then Montreal, then Cleveland, I believe, is their path. And then Cleveland chose to go somewhere else and just left the team. And so my dad and a group of others said, no, we can't just not have baseball in Jamestown. A funny story, Mike Ilitch, the owner of Little Caesars Pizza, got his baseball start in Jamestown.
Wow.
Yes.
How? Why?
Well, I appreciate it because they were the Jamestown Falcons at the time, and it was I want to say pre-World War II.
Okay.
He was young. Someone needs to fact check everything I'm saying. I mean, generally
So
speaking,
this was pre-pizza.
It was pre-pizza.
Okay.
And my dad always had this vision of hearing Mr. Ilitch talk about how he got inspiration for pizza while playing in Jamestown, New York. That would always be the dream because there's a pizza place close to the ballpark. But we haven't found that recording. But he was not the best. Like, he was below the Mendoza. We found his baseball card. Like, we have it. And so I always just appreciated that. Or if you can't beat them, buy them.
Yeah, right.
Where was I going? I don't even know. But, the Tarp Skunk. So when they were, how do we bring baseball back to Jamestown and come up with a name? There used to be a family of skunks that lived inside the tarp that you roll up.
Oh, okay.
And when they came around to the naming the new team, that won. Tarp Skunks.
Don't revive Falcons. Let's go with the Tarp Skunks.
Tarp Skunks it is, right?
Nice.
Yeah. It's a great logo. It's worth looking up.
Okay.
It is. I got so many questions about, don't they roll that tarp tightly? How would you even get in? But
there's a roll. Like, you have to roll it over something. And, there's
Okay, I guess there's a little gap.
There's a gap inside.
Keeps you warm.
Yes.
The one guy who got sprayed by said skunk probably had PTSD every time he saw the banners.
Somebody, yes, on the field management team. And there is some story about the skunks coming out during a game and going in front of the visiting dugout. Yeah.
Secret weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did then, obviously, it's a family bonding time and you love the game, but how does that then transition when you're 10 to 14 to wanting to make your name in baseball rather than just enjoying it? You're like, I want to do this as a career.
Yeah, I think I'm wired weird. But yeah, I remember pretty early on, 14, just thinking I want to work in baseball. I would love to be the first female general manager of a Major League Baseball team. That was such an inspiration for me. And that is what really helped like carve the next, I don't know, 15 years after that, for sure.
Right. Well, that brings me on to my next Amy Peterson history question.
There's the most thoroughly researched interview of all time.
All right. What does Amy Peterson and Paul Newman have in common?
Oh,
hold on. I need to explain for our listeners because I'm kind of on the divide of being dated in that if you're over 40, you know Paul Newman as an actor, Color of Money. But if you're under 40, you probably just know him for his pizza sauce.
And salad dressing. Yeah.
Salad dressing. But, he did both. And still, he posthumously does both. So what do you have in common with Paul Newman?
We both went to Kenyon College.
Ding, ding, ding.
All
1,000
right.
points. There we go. So, again, my secret stalker tour of Amy this past year.
Yeah.
We were in Kenyon College, again, for my daughter for a soccer ID camp.
Did you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It's so pretty.
And she's in here in the background.
Yes.
Sophia Baldwin.
Guest appearance today. But yeah, we went there just for a soccer ID camp as she's looking for places. And it's a cool campus. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Middle of cornfields.
Yeah, middle of nowhere.
And then all of a sudden Hogwarts appears. Like it's just so random.
Yeah. So talking of it random a little bit. So I looked what you studied. So you have this desire to be in baseball, and yet you do a degree in history, which is actually one of my favorite subjects. But why history? How was that going to get you to your goal of being in baseball?
I think I just wanted a liberal arts school. I come from generations of liberal arts graduates, and I like the small school, and I'm a history buff. I love history. So they didn't have a sports management degree. And honestly, when I went to school, sports management wasn't yet a thing. It wasn't.
Right.
Now it's incredibly popular, but it was just popping up in maybe a couple schools, but it wasn't as available as it is now. But part of why I went to Kenyon is I really wanted to play women's rugby.
Oh, okay.
That is what I wanted. I wanted liberal arts. But I really wanted to play women's rugby, and Kenyon had a team, and I fell in love with the school.
What position were you?
I was scrum half.
Are you a scrum half?
Yeah.
I was a scrum half as well.
Yeah. I loved it.
I liked rugby, but my passion, soccer.
Yeah.
And I went to a secondary school in England where they thought they were highbrow by not having a soccer team. So I was forced to play rugby, which made me resent it in the end.
Interesting.
So I played club soccer outside of school in England.
It's fascinating that they had rugby.
Rugby's massive in England.
He not necessarily
Not in
here,
America.
but part of it is, from what I understand, is just it's such a liability. Like most schools won't have it they just have it as a club sport, but won't have it as one of the major sports.
Yeah. Well, I think if you look at the research and rugby players will tell you it's way safer than American football.
I agree, but I think that there's I don't know. We just need more coaching.
Right.
I think Americans, we're just out there.
I think,
thinking
we
YouTube
American
a
way is
few
we just
videos
like to,
and we're like, we got this.
We like to blow each other up, But if you're taught tackling properly in rugby,
I can't say maybe we were in the club level, but we were just teaching each other.
yeah. But the argument is, you tackle with your head tucked behind their thighs, and it's a cleaner tackle rather than just American football where you
can pound the chest, like
you can. I know they're bringing in rules now about using the helmet and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll, right? Didn't he hire a bunch of rugby coaches? That was his big thing. I don't know how many years ago that was, but it was a big trend to do rugby tackles, and that's what he does. Like head behind or near the hip and kind of a spinning, more of like a wrestling.
Well, it's a better
leg.
tackle because you take them down.
Yeah.
You hold on to the legs, whereas you see some missed tackles in American football. They just knock them, they bounce 2 yards sideways, and they carry on running.
You can always see the like freestyle wrestlers too, who wrestled in high school and college. When they tackle very similarly.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm very short. I'm like 5 feet, even 5'1" if I stretch.
Low woman wins. I almost said low man wins, but low woman wins.
But it was easier because I was so low to the ground already. So tackling was not the hardest.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I failed in my research because I didn't know you were a rugby player.
Oh, well, here you go. I had to come with something fresh.
Something new. There we go. But if you're a baseball fanatic, why weren't you into like softball maybe?
That's a good question. I played a lot. I had watched a lot. So maybe it was my time of like not wanting to play. I liked the game, but I knew it wasn't my strength. I actually don't like to play it as much as I do like to watch it. So I like to play rugby. It was, more engaging and interactive. And so I think that was part of it too.
Now in England, there's a very hard drinking culture around rugby, men's rugby. Is American women's rugby pretty similar?
Yeah, 100%. I think that was also that was attractive about it as well. And the songs, oh my Lord, the songs are so fun, but also incredibly raunchy.
Right.
But the camaraderie too, like I love that. And that's also, I think, part of the liability behind it too, right? That's part of the culture is, colleges can't support that, but you drink with the visiting club afterwards. It's a huge party, and even the refs come and you sing these songs together, and it's and everybody knows the same songs, and you insert your lyrics, and it's great. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. How was going to a small college like that in the middle of nowhere? Did you like kind of the isolation?
I did. I realized it was definitely for me. I was not interested in a large school. I thought I could get lost in a large school. I like maybe part coming from a small town. I don't know. I liked that you could know everybody, but also large enough you could keep your distance. I don't know. I really enjoyed the size. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. I miss college. It was great. I mean, someone to just, your meals were just already always ready. Like, college is wasted on the youth. As an adult, oh my God, would I love to go there? Meals prepared, where.
Yeah, doing college tours
Room
now
and
with my daughter,
covered.
I'm like, I want to go here. Can I just like give everything up and go back to college?
Oh man, wouldn't that be amazing right now? Oh.
Yeah, it would be. It would be good. Now, from there, you decided to concentrate into law, and you went on to a couple of other places in Boston area and finished your law degree.
Yes.
Why did you end up concentrating in law? Did you start to see that was the avenue to get into the baseball industry?
Yeah. Yes. It was a lot of encouragement from my parents. I'll say that. But I knew that if I really wanted to get into sports, I need to, and particularly on the baseball development side, I wanted to have a well-rounded brain. And I wanted, in the thought, again, this was back then, now we live in a different time, but was to get as much education as I possibly could so that I would give them no reason to tell me no. Right. That was the logic behind it. So I was like, well, I'm going to get a law degree and then I'm going to get a business degree. I want to understand contracts because if I'm going to review player contracts, that was really important to know that. I didn't necessarily want to be like a true lawyer in that sense. I just wanted the knowledge. So that's why I did it.
Okay. And then how did you get your job in baseball?
It was a wild story, but one that so many have. It's just persistence. And I have a box of rejection letters at my parents' house from almost every team in baseball. I didn't apply to the Yankees. I just couldn't. My grandpa had passed at this point in time, and I knew that he'd roll over his grave if I applied to work for the Yankees.
Was he a Red Sox fan then? Or?
We grew up a Pirates fans.
Okay.
So we were Pirates fans, but I spent a lot of time in Boston. I took him to several games, and so he was anything but the Yankees. Is truly that he wouldn't have cared. But and along the way, people thought I was crazy, especially to say, oh, I'd love to be the first female GM. And I remember I thought I was going to get my big break with this gentleman. He was from down south. He owned a bunch of minor league teams. And I thought, okay, this is it. He's my professor in business school, introduced me to him. And he was really excited for me to meet him. He's like, I think this guy is going to help you. And I met him after he spoke. He gave a lecture. I went up to him afterwards and I said, I had my resume and everything. Like I said, I dream of being the first female GM. What would you say are next steps, or what would you recommend? And he literally laughed at me and he said, honey, your best bet is to marry a player. And I was like, true story. In the middle of this conference. And I was just so...
He started with honey.
Which, who doesn't love that, right?
Is this where the rugby tackle came?
I know, that's where it should have been. In hindsight, you always want to say something more. I just remember, it took the wind out of my lungs, and I just was like, I respectfully disagree. And I turned around, I marched out of there, went straight back to my shoebox apartment, and had a solid cry for 3 hours. And I was like, F that guy. And I just started sending out resume after resume, and these were like to internships. These were to work for free. Like I just knew I had to get.
There was no
the
official job posting. You're just sending it in.
There was like in the summertime, there was internships, and I would apply to those.
But you're just trying to get your name out there, catch their attention.
I was using whatever spare money I had to fly to certain places for the interview. If I got it, I knew that phone interviews mean nothing, and so I sometimes didn't even have the money. I just would like drive or find a way to get to that interview. I remember going to, it was Boston. I went in person. DC, I flew there in person. Tigers, same thing. I drove out here because I knew I had a better chance. And so for every rejection, I would make it a note. I was going to send 3 more out. Like that was just my cadence. And then I had 3 rejections from the Tigers until I finally got the opportunity here.
And what was the official job title of the opportunity here?
I started out as intern of community affairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then kind of briefly tell us how then that changed to get to where you got to in that organization.
Straight up hustle.
Yeah.
I worked my ass off. I would do everything and above in the community affairs, just for my role. And then I would ask, what else can I do? Or are there gaps? Are there things that I can help problem solve? And I would fix those. I remember it was simply, we had a back room closet and it was an absolute mess. There was nothing organized. We didn't know what autographed items we had back there or, old programs. We would use that stuff to give out to the community to help, nonprofits raise money. I was like, I'm going to take it upon myself. And I talked to my amazing boss at the time, Jordan Field, and I said, I'd like to organize that. He said, I have at it. So, I organized it. I labeled it, put pictures everywhere. And then...
So you were Marie Kondo before.
I know I am. The funniest thing is like, I was doing it for the job. Right. I am not an organized person. That is not of interest to me. I just saw an opportunity where I could do something more. Because the internship was short-lived. It was just a summer commitment. And I'm like, well, I got to find a way to stay. So then I started, I made sure I was cool with my department. That was always really important. But then I said, hey, if you guys don't have anything else, can I ask a couple other departments? And so then I would talk to marketing and corporate sales. Like, are there things during the game that maybe I could help with? And so I just kind of started doing more and more stuff. It's the art of the hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know... by the time you left there, you were involved in the Ross Initiative in Sports for Equality. Was that your main job, being involved with that initiative? Actually,
so I spent 11 years with the Tigers, ultimately making it up to associate counsel for them. And that was incredible. And I really enjoyed that in many ways because that's where I got to do player arbitration and really understand the value of a player. It was a great experience. There were a lot of challenges being a woman, in that I was only allowed to go so far, and I didn't get the support that I really wanted. So it was at this time, actually, this is kind of the piece of where Rebel Nell starts to come in, because I had actually started Rebel Nell in 2013 while I was still with the Tigers. So I spent 5 years kind of doing Rebel Nell as a side hustle.
Right.
And then I was getting this pull to to do more in the community. And it was really geared towards Rebel Nell, but my ego was not ready to leave yet. I thought it was.
Right.
And so my next step was to go, I left the Tigers in 2018 to go to work for RISE, the Ross Initiative in Sports for Equality. And I was, vice president, general counsel for RISE for 8 months. And I appreciated it, but also where our offices were located was across the street from where Rebel Nell was manufacturing. Like I could see it basically and ironically, their offices were in Old Tiger Stadium. So I went from Comerica Park over to Old Tiger Stadium. And while I was at RISE, I was there for 8 months, and all I kept thinking about was like, why didn't I just go try Rebel Nell? I was afraid. RISE was a great salary. There were benefits. It was that I was just afraid. I was afraid to let go of my ego. And so finally I did after 8 months there, and then went into Rebel Nell full time.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking a lot of reason that you maybe left the lawyer type role was because you wanted a bigger vision, a bigger purpose, as it were. But then you kind of had that at RISE because it's, combating that, but it wasn't your social vision.
Correct.
So that's kind of why you felt the pull. And
I was afraid to leave sports. I mean, here I'd been working since I was 14 to get into the industry. And I think it was that, oh yeah, I'm ready to leave. Not really. I'm going to go over here. And it just was, that's what that experience was.
Yeah.
It's a great organization. I needed to go all in on entrepreneurship.
That's right.
And give it a whirl.
Yeah.
Famous last words.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who watches like Shark Tank or anything like that, one of the questions you often see is this your full-time job? Kind of how much debt are you in? How committed you are? Because you do have to be committed.
Yeah.
To give it a true shot.
Absolutely.
Now, I know one thing I really find interesting about Rebel Nell is that you didn't start it based on the product. You started it based on your mission, your vision, which was to help empower women. I tried to write a joke about me mansplaining what empowering women was, but I couldn't do one without it being way too cringy.
Yeah.
So if you want to really just kind of explain what empower women means in your vision.
Yeah, for me, starting Rebel Nell, I think it's important to talk about the history of it. So we talked about, I was working in baseball at the time, and then where I was living was right next door to a well-known shelter in Detroit.
The COTS shelter, right?
Amazing organization. And I would come home from the games and I would talk to these incredible women who I got to know them. They left challenging situations in search of better opportunities for themselves and for their family members. And also at the time, I was feeling my own frustrations at work, not feeling supported, not feeling that I was giving the encouragement and the opportunities that I really wanted in order to grow. And so I kind of, was in many ways self-motivated and selfish in some ways to start this organization. But that's what was my driving force. It was an outlet for me. But here I was also meeting these incredible women who just needed an opportunity. They wanted to work. They wanted something, but there are certain struggles that they've had maintaining jobs. Okay, so what if we created an organization that was that soft landing space for them, that was an understanding culture, that supported them and their growth no matter where they are, and kind of understood the ebbs and flows of life and how broken the system is. That was the vision behind starting Rebel Nell, and that's what I feel we do to empower the women that we serve.
Yeah, I know you talk about a wraparound support because it's kind of addresses all parts of their life, whether you're teaching them financial literacy or just, practical skills. And you've had over 40 people graduate out of your program.
We've hired 41. We've graduated 36 into the traditional workforce.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your vision. Now you had to find a product.
Yes.
And I know you have a partner who helps you in the businesses. And you both had some jewelry experience in the past?
I mean, yes. Kind of like how I know how to play rugby.
Right. So you would sing jewelry songs at the end.
Exactly. And we drink a lot of beer while we make it. It's actually, this is a kind of a cool story.
It could be fun. It could be started out of a rugby drinking thing. You're walking down DeQuinda Cut,
Yes,
stumbling down. You
stumbling
find graffiti. You're like, I'm going to make jewelry out of this.
Yeah, yeah. So, and how I was living in Detroit those days, like, you know, single and having a great time is probably
Right.
My business partner Diana, she took more classes. She took like 2 when she was at Wayne State, and I was all self-taught. So I always want to say, to call ourselves to like jewelers is not fair to the true artists out there that are, have really studied the craft. When I was in law school, I was selling jewelry, like beaded jewelry on the side just to help like pay for books and whatever other expenses. And it was a creative outlet for me. And so I enjoyed that part of it. But I studied law school is really, really challenging. I'm not, I don't think I'm very intelligent. I mean, maybe I'm not trying to degrade myself, but things don't come really easily for me. I put in the work, and law school is a challenge. So I didn't go out much. I really put my nose in the books, but we had a movie theater across the street, and I couldn't really afford to go to the movies all that much, but I went one time to see the film Hotel Rwanda. Do you remember that film?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a great film.
Don Cheadle, right?
Yes, and Sophie Okonedo. And I came back, and my friend from Kenyon had worked on the movie. I knew her dad. I believe he directed it. And I was just so moved at that time. And I knew that my friend was doing some work for Rwanda. And I called her, and I said, hey, I don't have any money to donate, but, do you need someone to make calls, or I can offer time? And she said, hey, we are looking to make an awareness pin for the International Fund for Rwanda. You make jewelry, right? And I said, well, yeah, sure. And you always say yes to the opportunities and you figure it out later. That's what I've learned in life. That's all I operate to. But she said, can you make an awareness pin? I never made a pin in my goddamn life. And I was like, you betcha. Yeah, turns out I will call the head of manufacturing, which is me in my apartment, and see if we can do that for you. So I said yes. And I came up with some designs, but here I am, I know nothing about Rwanda. This is not fair for me to be the one that's ultimately determining this pin for such an important cause when I have no touch point. So I said to Orla, my friend, I said, is there somebody I can talk to that can help guide me through this process so I'm being culturally appropriate and sensitive, and I want to run these designs based on the research I've done. And so she put me in touch with this amazing woman who worked at the UN who had lost her family in the genocide. And we worked together to come up with a design. And it was great. It was cool. I sent her a picture of the prototype, and my friend was like, yep, it's great. It's awesome. I don't know if you've seen the news, but the film's been nominated for a bunch of Academy Awards. Can you make 100 and overnight them to LA? I was like, yep, of course I can.
In fact, would you like 1,000?
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh my God. So I pulled another 2 friends out of that lived in the same hall with me, and we went to the law school together. And I said, we're going to have to skip class. We're going to pull 2 all-nighters, but this will be, and I'm not going to pay you anything, but this will be cool. And so they did. They helped me make these pins. And my fingers were raw. There was no skin left on them. We did it. We pulled it off. We overnighted them. And then I remember turning on TV. My TV was like a 1 foot by 1 foot square, and watching Joan Rivers interview everybody coming down the red carpet, and Don Cheadle's wearing the pin, and Sophie's wearing the pin, and there goes Cher wearing the pin. And it was like the coolest experience ever. Like just to, and then we sold them on our website. I think my company at the time was called Doodle Inc.
So that pin, that's before the Detroit graffiti.
Yeah,
right?
way before. I was living in Boston still.
Okay.
This is like the first business attempt, and I donated 100% of the proceeds to the International Fund for Rwanda. And then my baseball, I closed that business down, or just kind of dissolved, and went on to, then my baseball life took over.
Sure.
So this always kind of stuck with me, is I really appreciated that part of it. I loved giving, but not that this is any question. I knew the money was going to a good cause, but I never got to see like the fruits of my labor and see how the impact was made. So I think that always stuck, that if I ever were to do something like that again, I want to be a part of the impact.
Yeah. No, I like that. I think a lot of us have things in our careers where maybe we did it 100%, but we didn't know where it was leading. And then that kind of chapter closed. But then 5-10 years later, that experience serves you for what you end up ultimately doing.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And here we are.
Here we are. Well, just to briefly touch on the product, for those that don't know, Rebel Nell uses graffiti that's peeled off the walls. You never peel it. It falls
off the
itself.
walls. Right.
It's self-peeling.
Yeah, and we don't peel.
And then you create jewelry with it. And
yes.
you can actually go into your studio and be part of that process if you want to do it yourself.
Yes.
And it's great jewelry. It's all price points. So if I was to mansplain to men about what to get people for their...
Do you workshop any of these jokes with Sophia?
No, well, yeah, my daughter will just knock them all down if I do that. So I try and keep them some. But no, I mean, if you need a birthday present, a Mother's Day present, a holiday present, they've got a price point for everything, and they're very well received. In fact, there is a 75-year-old in England with red hair that has a few of... pink hair, in fact, that has a few of yours. That's my mum. And so occasionally we go in there, and my son picked out a bracelet with a pink pink string, I guess. Yeah. And then the thing said, yeah, Grandma will love this. It will match her hair. So
that means the world to me. Thank you.
So when we sometimes FaceTime, she's like, I'm wearing the bracelet that matches my hair. That's my best old lady accent.
It's pretty good.
Yes. But in terms of as well, just to touch on the product a little more, you also do collaborations. So I know you've got one with the Lions right now.
Yes.
You've done some of the paint that's fallen off of the terrace room at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island.
Yep.
Parade Company's another one. The Dugout from Comerica. Mm-hmm. So a lot of cool collaborations like that.
I love doing those. And I think... what we've realized we started with the graffiti, and that's what we're known for. What we do is we also preserve memories with our product. So it all started when they were tearing down the Joe Louis Arena. I went and I just drove by it. I was on my way to Rebel Nell, and there was just red all over the streets. Like they took a wrecking ball and it was everywhere. And I grabbed a box that was in the back of my car, emptied what was in it, and I don't know. I called one of my team members. I was like, grab a broom, meet me here on this corner. And she did. And we just swept up all this red material that had fallen off the Joe. And I called the Red Wings. I was like, I got an idea. We'll help raise money for the foundation, but I need you guys to help spread the word. And we're going to do a Joe Louis collaboration. That thing, we have yet to be able to replicate the success of that. That was amazing. But we've since done it with Tigers from the vinyl. You mentioned Mackinac Hotel. We use fabric from that one. So we're not necessarily paint chips. It's what holds memory, what's meaningful. When I go into a place, like I went into the Palace, and before they tore it down, they said, have at it, Amy, whatever you want from here. And I said, okay, what would be meaningful to the fans that came here? Well, the Palace was known for these iconic blue and red seats. I'll take some of those seats. And then the other thing I always think about is, what also do fans maybe not have access to? It's like, can I go in the locker room? And so then I got material from inside the locker room because, championships were won there, and this is a great story. So that's how I approach these collaborations, is what has meaning and would be special to somebody who's a fan of the person or the organization we're collaborating with.
Yeah. I want to talk about kind of some of the challenges you faced in there, but also kind of looking forward. Do you want to keep it very local? Because potentially you could have a Rebel Nell in every city. You know, for the stadium they knocked down in Baltimore, LA, wherever. Why haven't you done that?
That's a great question.
Just don't want to? Which is fine.
I do. I'm so ready to scale. I'm so ready for the world to be ready for Rebel Nell. COVID, like so many things, crushed us. And then we are the tale of so many where, supply chain hurt us as well. And then we over ordered last year. All my years blend together. And so we had an abundance of inventory. Now we're inventory heavy. And last year, when everyone was expecting a really big fourth quarter, the fourth quarter never showed up because we also started, things that impact our small business, impact big businesses, also impact us. The war in Ukraine started. People became afraid to spend. We're a nice to have. We're not a need to have. No one needs to have jewelry. So we're the first line that gets cut from budgets, right? When you're thinking about how the mentality shift. And then there's still right now even this looming recession because no one knows what's happening, but it's impacting the way consumers spend. So it's really limited our abilities to scale, and also meeting customers. We talked about before we started recording, just the changes these days are so fast. And how do you keep up with attention spans? And what we've leaned into is, our design your own, having those experiential opportunities are what's carrying us. We now have a team building that we bring to corporations and we make a mural with their team. Those are flying for us. So, as business owners, you pivot 24/7. I think every business owner just has holes in their shoes. That's part of it too. And now we're at this, now I'm getting to this place where it's like, okay, now we're kind of digging out, how do I expand? How do I keep that local feel, but also take it to other places? And that's actually, it's a big question of the how. I don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, potentially franchising is something we've looked at. Yeah, because I think you do need someone invested in the community, passionate about their city, that can talk them passionately about the product.
Exactly. It really helps to have that. And to, I think of how we were built where, and it's funny we're bringing this up because I do have this interesting opportunity right now that looks something similar to this, where we would partner essentially with a women's shelter in another city. And this would be their revenue stream. Because also what is on the forefront of the nonprofit space is how do nonprofits become more sustainable? How can they have a revenue generating arm so that they're not relying on grants? They also need to think about diversifying their portfolio essentially. So it would be very innovative. We would be the first ever to do something like this, but this could be an opportunity to scale and break some molds.
Yeah. Talking of the nonprofit, I know you have a nonprofit arm, and that was started in 2016, 3 years after you started Rebel Nell?
Correct.
And that was kind of started a bit more out of necessity? Is
yes.
that right? When you were kind of like, your bank account was kind of low in the business and you weren't fully all in yet?
Yeah. What happened, you fly the plane while you're building it, which seems to be clearly a theme throughout my life, which sometimes I should pause and maybe study what other people do, but I just go. One of the things we learned, social enterprises weren't a topic of conversation. It wasn't a household thing, and it's still not, but when we started, it wasn't. I just had this vision for starting a company that was for profit, but put its people first, and in the same line of profitability. But what we were doing is we were paying for all the resources. So all of the legal aid, oh my gosh, you name, like it was it still is, but we manage it better now where, we were helping pay for back taxes for our women for, if they were getting parking tickets, because it's one thing when they receive, in many situations, if they receive a parking ticket, they have certain options they have to make that week. Do they pay the parking ticket or do they pay for food? And if that just keeps going, that parking ticket can then also accrues and starts to weigh on them. So there were opportunities we had where we could give them a hand up and not necessarily a hand out. We actually paid to relocate a family to Colorado when their son was very caught up in the gang life here and couldn't get out. So these are like the things that not many people know about the inner workings of Rebel Nell, because you got to summarize your story in a 30-second pitch to share it. We've had stabbings. I mean, it's been a lot. It's just been, so we were doing all of that under the roof of Rebel Nell. It was an amazing organization that came to visit us in 2015 from California. And they said, you have an incredible social enterprise. And we're like, that sounds awesome. What is that? And that's when we learned about social enterprises. And they're way more developed on the West Coast, and Rediff is an organization that helps them. So we started to get connected with them. We were one of their part of their cohorts. And what we learned from a lot of other social enterprises, they have a nonprofit that they either partner with or is under their umbrella to really help with all those wraparound supports. So we work as the workforce development partner. The nonprofit provides all the resources, and essentially Rebel Nell now pays them to take the classes that are offered by our nonprofit partner, which is T. They are now completely separate organizations, but I think it's a necessity in order to have a successful social enterprise. That's a really long-winded answer.
Right.
Sorry.
Hey, no, that's fine. It's called T, right? It stands for Team Empower Achieve.
Teach, Empower, Achieve.
Teach, Empower, Achieve.
Yep.
Okay. I just like the name T, being
Yes.
English. Yes. Now, we are the Self-Belief and Influence podcast.
Yes.
And so I do like to ask our guests, what was the biggest moment where you had to dig on your reserves of self-belief and to get through a certain challenge?
This year.
This
year's been a beast. It's been really challenging. Beginning of this year was really hard. And I think it's part of normal entrepreneurship to just just giving up on a daily basis, right? It's such a roller coaster ride. It is down, and then the next minute, just when you're like, that's been a good run, you'll get a phone call that's like, well, we'd like to place 100, an order for 100 units for this conference we've got going up. You're like, son of a gun, I'm back at it. But this year was really, really tough in so many ways. We had to go through our own set of layoffs, which I never in a million years thought we'd do. And it's just, you're a small business. You know these people. You know everything about them, their families. And so,
was there one thing that happened this year or just a
it
culmination?
was kind of what I had mentioned earlier. It was a culmination of so many things. We've made mistakes. We had some bad hires that was costly and really hurt our business. So we were hemorrhaging money last year, but we were also, this is the true story. This is the raw story. So we navigated through COVID, and then we got the opportunity to get all the EIDL money. So we took the money and we were like, this is when we're going to scale. This is when we're going to grow. Now, this was at the beginning of 2021. So we started to do the hires, and we're like, now is our time to scale. Then the world was not ready for us. And they were not the best hires either to help guide us. And this is where I realized in my moment when we sat, I'll get back to it. So we had the bad hires. Q4 never delivered. So now we're stuck with all this extra inventory. We had too many people, and we never hit our goals and our objectives. So we went to sit down with a mentor of mine who I just worship the ground she walks on. And she looked me in the eye at the beginning of the year in January and said, why don't you believe in yourself the way I believe in you? And that was the biggest gut punch ever. And that is when I realized, I needed to do some soul searching, because she's right. For the past year, and a lot of it was COVID related, because as a business owner, we had to be so strong, especially small business owner. We didn't have any support. Our main focus was taking care of our team. And so I became the only one going into the shop, making the product, running the whole thing while everyone else stayed home. I don't even know what work from home is.
So you weren't delegating effectively.
We couldn't really, because we're manufacturing, right? So they couldn't come in. It wasn't safe, but we still had to sell something to pay for salaries, to pay for all the things that we were trying to keep our team, even with the government support. And so I was burnt the hell out. And so I was looking for people to help guide me, because I think I lost my way. And when she said that, I was like, oh my God, she's 100% right. I lost faith in my own ability to lead the company. So I had to make a choice at the beginning of the year of, do I just shut it down, or do I put war paint on and go to freaking battle? And that's what I chose to do. And
do you think you kind of went inside yourself a little bit, into a bit of a shell, into a bit of an imposter syndrome? And,
oh yeah, you live in that space, I think,
Yeah.
and it's constantly every day, telling yourself to get out of it. I believe in therapy. I believe in holistic medicine. I actually did a ayahuasca trip. That was life-changing for me, to really find whatever those demons were that were holding me back. And I'm proud that I'm sitting here in front of you guys today feeling like my armor is getting stronger every day.
That's great.
And we're digging out. But that's amazing. But it's been a long, tough past 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much I'd like to touch on there, but one thing that's been kind of a theme with different business owners we speak to is you're certainly not the first one to make a bad hire.
Yes.
But how did you then realize, okay, this isn't working, and did you cut it at the right time, or did you let it go on for too long?
One we cut right at the right time. The other one I let go too long. And what I've learned in the process, and now it's a little tricky because we are at the place where we need to hire it. But my mentality around it is different. I'm no longer bringing in what I think is an expert to teach me what I need to know. I need to bring people in who support me in my vision.
Right.
That is where we've made the mistakes in the past. I just was looking for gurus to come in and solve everything. And the reality is I know what I'm doing. I just need people to help me so I can do more of it instead of getting back into the weeds of it.
Now, obviously this year had its challenges, and then you've had a number of, but you've made Rebel Nell very successful, and you talked about being all in. So how does that then work with, you've now got another business, the Congregation, a really great, successful community meeting space that's a coffee house, and now you're also opening another place. Three, it's going to be more of a restaurant, the third place. So three not that similar projects. How do you do that? I mean, I like having lots of different plates I'm spinning.
Yeah.
Not everyone does, but how can you spin all those different plates and be focused at the same time?
I think part of it fuels me. I recognize my ADD as a superpower now. I always thought it was a hindrance, but now I appreciate it. I also have insanely amazing people around me. I'm not doing this on my own. So my husband is an incredible entrepreneur on his own, and I'm very good at the vision and what needs to happen, and I can see it and lay it out. He's more the process, the finance guy, and that's my weakness. So we work really well together on these other projects, but it's also key. We have a phenomenal business partner for the Congregation who runs it on a day-to-day. I don't do that.
Okay.
My job is really the years leading up to it, and then, helping with higher level decisions, but I don't have to manage the Congregation. Betsy is a gift because of that, and she will also run the restaurant too.
Okay.
So Rebel Nell is that occupies 95% of my time.
Okay. All right, my final Amy Peterson quiz question.
Okay.
All right, which famous person once said this?
Oh, no.
Someone once asked me what I regarded as the 3 most important requirements for happiness. My answer was a feeling that you have been honest with yourself and those around you, a feeling that you have done the best you could in both your personal life and in your work, and the ability to love others.
Who said that? Was it Eleanor?
It was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes.
All right. So briefly, why would you know that? What does Eleanor Roosevelt mean to you?
She's actually the namesake of Rebel Nell. It's not a Billy Idol song.
Nathan, please no. Yes.
That was my poor joke.
I had to let Nathan know that earlier.
It is not. Is named after. We wanted to name it after a woman who was a trailblazer, who's incredible for what she stood for. And my business partner and I love Eleanor Roosevelt and everything she stood for. She was an incredible humanitarian activist, civil rights advocate, humanitarian. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. She actually started a social enterprise. Like, the woman was so ahead of her time. But her dad called her Little Nell, and we thought she deserved a more kick-ass nickname. That's how we got Rebel Nell. We also believe that the women that we're employing are rebelling against what life has dealt to them and dealing with fallen street art. So it's rebellious art form. That's how that's it.
Yeah, I've studied the Roosevelts a little bit, and
Yes.
so many great quotes and things that they did. I mean, if you were to Google Eleanor Roosevelt quotes, as I may have done, there's a lot of great ones.
Yes. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Right.
Oh, that is so good.
That's a great one.
That's so good.
So based on this quote, and I'll read it again, she said, someone once asked me what I regard as the 3 most important requirements for happiness. Her answer was a feeling that you've been honest with yourself and those around you, a feeling that you've done the best you could, both in your personal life and in your work, and the ability to love others. So I guess my final question is, are you happy?
I am. I love what I do. I really do. And I feel so fortunate to do it. I'm just ready to do more of it.
Right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing the next chapter. That's a phone call coming in right there for a Rebel Nell.
The hotline,
That's
dialing in.
Perfect timing. Well, Amy, we really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us.
Q4 never delivered. So now we're stuck with all this extra inventory. We had too many people and we never hit our goals and our objectives. So we went to sit down with a mentor of mine who I just worship the ground she walks on. And she looked me in the eye at the beginning of the year in January and said, why don't you believe in yourself the way I believe in you? And that was the biggest gut punch ever. And that is when I realized, like, I needed to do some soul searching because she's right. For the past year, and a lot of it was COVID related because as a business owner, we had to be so strong, especially small business owner. We didn't have any support. Like, our main focus was taking care of our team. And so I became the only one going into the shop, making the product, running the whole thing while everyone else stayed home. I don't even know what work from home is.
So you weren't delegating effectively.
We couldn't really because we're manufacturing, right? So they couldn't come in. It wasn't safe, but we still had to sell something to pay for salaries, to pay for all the things that we were trying to keep our team, even with the government support. And so I was burnt the hell out. And so I was looking for people to help guide me. And so I was looking for people to help guide me. Because I think I lost. And when she said that, I was like, "Oh my God!" I lost faith in my own ability to lead the company. I lost faith in my own ability to lead the company. I had to make a choice at the beginning of the year. I had to make a choice. Do I just shut it down, or do I just shut it down? War paint on and go to, or do I battle? Put war paint on and go to frickin' battle. And that's what I chose to do. And
do you think you kind of went inside yourself a little bit, into a bit of a shell, into a bit of an imposter syndrome? And,
oh yeah, you live in that space, I think, and it's constantly every day, like telling yourself to get out of it. I believe in therapy. I believe in holistic medicine. I actually went and did a ayahuasca trip. That was life-changing for me, to really find whatever those demons were that were holding me back. And I'm proud that I'm sitting here in front of you guys today feeling like my armor is getting stronger every day.
That's great.
And we're digging out. But that's amazing. But it's been a long, tough past 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much I'd like to touch on there, but one thing that's been kind of a theme with different business owners we speak to is you're certainly not the first one to make a bad hire.
Yes.
But how did you then realize, okay, this isn't working, and did you cut it at the right time, or did you let it go on for too long? One,
we cut right at the right time. The other one I let go too long. And what I've learned in the process, and now it's a little tricky because we are at the place where we need to hire it, but my mentality around it is different. I'm no longer bringing in what I think is an expert to teach me what I need to know. I need to bring people in who support me in my vision.
Right.
That is where we've made the mistakes in the past. I just was looking for gurus to come in and solve everything. And the reality is I know what I'm doing. I just need people to help me so I can do more of it instead of getting back into the weeds of it.
Now, obviously this year had its challenges, and then you've had a number of, but you've made Rebel Nell very successful, and you talked about being all in. So how does that then work with, you've now got another business, the Congregation,
Yes.
a really great, successful community meeting space that's a coffee house, and now you're also opening another place. Three, it's going to be more of a restaurant, the third place. So three not that similar projects. How do you do that? I mean, I like having lots of different plates I'm spinning.
Yeah.
Not everyone does, but how can you spin all those different plates and be focused at the same time?
I don't. I think part of it fuels me. I recognize my ADD as a superpower now. I always thought it was a hindrance, but now I appreciate it. I also have insanely amazing people around me. I'm not doing this on my own. So my husband is an incredible entrepreneur on his own, and I'm very good at the vision and what needs to happen, and I can see it and lay it out. He's more the process, the finance guy, and that's my weakness. So we work really well together on these other projects, but it's also key. We have a phenomenal business partner for the Congregation who runs it on a day-to-day. I don't do that.
Okay.
My job is really the years leading up to it, and then, helping with higher level decisions, but I don't have to manage the Congregation. Betsy is a gift because of that, and she will also run the restaurant too.
Okay.
So Rebel Nell is that occupies 95% of my time.
Okay. All right, my final Amy Peterson quiz question.
Okay.
All right, which famous person once said this?
Oh, no.
Someone once asked me what I regarded as the 3 most important requirements for happiness. My answer was a feeling that you have been honest with yourself and those around you, a feeling that you have done the best you could in both your personal life and in your work, and the ability to love others.
Who said that? Was it Eleanor?
It was Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yes!
All right. So briefly, why would you know that? What does Eleanor Roosevelt mean to you?
She's actually the namesake of Rebel Nell. It's not a Billy Idol song.
Nathan, please know. Yes.
That was my poor joke.
I had to let Nathan know that earlier.
It is not. It is named after, we wanted to name it after a woman who was a trailblazer, who's incredible for what she stood for. And my business partner and I love Eleanor Roosevelt and everything she stood for. She was an incredible humanitarian, activist, civil rights advocate, humanitarian. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. She actually started a social enterprise. Like, the woman was so ahead of her time. But her dad called her Little Nell, and we thought she deserved a more kick-ass nickname. That's how we got Rebel Nell. We also believe that the women that we're employing are rebelling against what life has dealt to them and dealing with fallen street art. So it's rebellious art form. That's how that's it.
Yeah, I've studied the Roosevelts a little bit, and
Yes.
the so many great quotes and things that they did. I mean, if you were to Google Eleanor Roosevelt quotes, as I may have done, there's a lot of great ones.
Yes. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Right.
Oh, that is so good.
That's a great one.
That is so good.
So based on this quote, and I'll read it again, she said, someone once asked me what I regarded as the 3 most important requirements for happiness. Her answer was a feeling that you've been honest with yourself and those around you, a feeling that you've done the best you could both in your personal life and in your work, and the ability to love others. So I guess my final question is, are you happy?
I am. I love what I do. I really do. And I feel so fortunate to do it. I'm just ready to do more of it.
Right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing the next chapter. That's a phone call coming in right there for a Rebel Nell.
The hotline dialing in.
Perfect timing. Well, Amy, we really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us.
What timing?
Yeah.
That phone never rings. That's
Is it like the bat phone? Is it the governor?
It could be. It could be somebody trying to get in their room to start working, but no.
Should we re-record the last bit or something? We can work it out.
Yeah, we can work it out. We can.
All right.
AI will take it out for us.
Oh, nice.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate it.
That was really fun.
Thanks.
Seriously, I've done a lot of podcasts. That was the most well-researched podcast of all time.
Thanks.
I can't believe you guys spent I wish I had known. I would give you so many different places to go than hang out in Jamestown.
We wish we would have known as well.
It was really cool though. Like soccer